Woman married to Rockefeller for 12 years, mortified to learn his true identity. Clark Rockefeller seemed like he had it all. Between his lovely wife, adorable little girl, and connections to one of America's most powerful families, everything worked out as well as Clark ever could have hoped. Then one loose thread unraveled his web of lies. This Rockefeller wasn't who he claimed to be, and even his loved ones didn't pick up on the warning signs until it was too late. Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. In 1995, Clark instantly charmed Harvard Business School student Sandra Boss. They met while playing the board game Clue. Sandra was smitten with Clark, and even his odd behavior didn't deter her. He refused to set foot on the soil of Connecticut because it was an evil state, and that's where his parents died, she said. The chance to become Mrs. Rockefeller put any concerns to rest. The two of them decided to get married, despite Clark's increasingly erratic quirks. He had a tendency to fly off the handle at times. He also insisted that he and his wife filed separate tax returns, which seemed strange, but perhaps it was a smart move. You didn't turn down financial advice from a Rockefeller, after all. At the time, Sandra had little idea that she'd promised to spend the rest of her life with a dangerous man. And though he carried himself as if he were brilliant, Clark was taking advantage of her. She worked as a high-powered consultant while he worked on far-fetched monetary projects. Then he decided to stay home and become a father. They had a daughter, Ree, before Sandra filed for divorce in 2006. This was when Clark's pile of cons collapsed. I found out in August of 2007 that he was not Clark Rockefeller, Sandra said. Through a detective, she found out Clark's actual identity. He was a German immigrant named Christian Karl Garstreiter. Before getting into serious crimes, he was living it up in the 80s. At 21, he resided just outside of Los Angeles in San Marino and recognized that this was the perfect opportunity to take on a new identity, though he wouldn't be a Rockefeller quite yet. He introduced himself as Christopher Chichester, the 13th Baronet of England. Clark convincingly faked a high-class British accent and slathered gobs of charm on his unsuspecting neighbors and fellow church members. And he was passing out hymnals, going to the free lunches, and joining the city club and meeting all the regulars, Vanity Fair reporter Mark Seal said. He was handing out business cards that said 13th Baronet of Chichester, and it had the crest, and he would hand out business cards and kiss the ladies' hands, Seal said. Before long, he'd worked his way into elite circles. Elderly people, especially the women, couldn't say no to the kind, handsome youngster. At a local church, Clark met Ruth Sohus. Ruth was 65 and needed some extra money, so she decided to illegally rent her guest house to Clark. No one in San Marino was aware of this. He lived there for a few years without incident, until Ruth's son John and his fiancée Linda moved in with her. John and Linda eventually married and were planning to move into a new home when they vanished in February 1985. Locals knew that they were planning to relocate to New York for John's government job, and in May 1985, Clark also disappeared from the state of California. Unlike John and Linda, Clark reappeared. This time, Clark popped up in Greenwich, Connecticut, calling himself Christopher Crowe. Clark was only 24 and claimed to be an executive producer on the show Alfred Hitchcock Presents. The fake name did appear in the credits, so once again, no one questioned him. Fooling people was so simple before the internet. The residents were enamored with Clark. They even believed the producer successfully transferred his skills to bond trading on Wall Street after 2 years. It seems like Clark was burnt out from his fake job and switched to a new one. While Clark changed industries, his past inched closer to his present. Back in California, Ruth died, believing her son had left her for a new life in New York. And in Connecticut, Clark decided to sell a white 1985 Nissan truck to his friend Chris Bishop. There was a major issue. The vehicle was already registered to John and Linda Sohus. Poor Chris discovered this confusing detail at the DMV. By the time the San Marino police realized this connection, Clark had escaped to New York City. He used his fake bond trading past to get a high-paying job at a real brokerage firm and was living with his girlfriend, Mihoko Manabe. The police tried to contact Clark, but Mihoko helped him evade their calls. Mihoko was also around Clark when he finally decided to take on his most famous persona. It came up almost spontaneously when the couple went to a restaurant and couldn't get a table. And so he just said, "Rockefeller. My name's Clark Rockefeller." Suddenly, a table appeared. Seal reported, Clark didn't stop there either. With his new name, Clark joined St. Thomas Church and once again started impressing the congregation. He would carry around a security device that he said was connected to the Rockefeller offices because he was very paranoid about security and being kidnapped, which is pretty gutsy because that church has real Rockefellers, Seal pointed out. Not long after, Sandra Boss fell under Clark's spell. While Clark wrapped Sandra around his finger, San Marino police made a breakthrough on an old missing persons case. New residents had moved into Ruth's house and were digging for a pool when they hit an unexpected obstacle. During the excavation of the pool, the bulldozer operator struck something hard, Steele said, continuing, and it turned out to be human bones. The remains were so severely rotted that the coroner couldn't determine the cause of death. In addition to that development, Sandra had decided to push Clark out of her life. She knew his life was about to be upended, so he kidnapped Rhee and fled to Baltimore. This time he became Sea Captain Chip Smith, traveling with his daughter, Muffy. However, he wouldn't get far. His real estate agent turned him into authorities after she heard about the abduction on the news. Clark was convicted of kidnapping. While he was in jail, the police finally tied him to the corpse in Ruth's yard. The body was identified as John, who was beaten to death and wrapped in plastic bags from a bookstore that Clark frequented. Linda's body was never recovered. That bombshell shocked Clark's friends and family, including author Walter Kern. "I'd never been to a murder trial before. Imagine me. One of my best friends is the defendant at the first murder trial I get to go to," Kern said. "And so you'd think that I was the kind of guy who would see through someone like him." Walter was close with Clark and had socialized with him at parties and at each other's homes. Even Sandra didn't want to believe he was capable of taking a life. But now witness after witness was coming up and giving evidence about what was really going on, and that the person I knew was actually hiding from a murder the whole time, recalled Walter. Clark's charisma helped him live large for decades, but his lies could only prop him up so far for so long. Even with sparse physical evidence, a jury convicted Clark of first-degree murder. He's currently serving his sentence. His wife and daughter are living far away from the fake Rockefeller who infiltrated their lives. And what of the famous family that the con man latched onto? David Rockefeller and his relatives mostly stayed mum on the issue. One could guess they didn't want to bring more attention to the imposter who had abused their family name. But Clark's crimes were just the latest misfortune for the Rockefellers. Despite their immense wealth and power, they'd been dealing with tragedy and scandal for generations. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspirational stories.